He was an armed domestic abuser who ignored a court order to turn his guns over to police. 2 officers nearly paid for that with their lives.
It happened in Kitsap County, where the King 5 investigators have previously reported on problems enforcing that so-called weapons surrender order. King 5's Chris Ingalls is here to show us how that failure threatens not only the abuser's family, but the public as well. Chris.
Mark, Lori, this shooting happened almost a year ago, but now that the investigation is closed, the story can be told. And we'll tell it with the actual radio calls and the evidence from the police files.
253, you might come back down here. I think that SUV's down here in the park. 42 saying I'm up out with Boy Henry Frank, 2438. The park at Lions Field, the lower part. Check and see if there's still PC for Willie McCord. We need another unit, he's got a gun.
Another unit, he's got a gun at Lee Lions Field.
Shots fired.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Shots fired. Man down.
Man down, shots fired.
911, what are you reporting?
I heard what sounded like gunshots.
All units, shots fired. Man down. He's going to be Bremerton entered 442 Lions Field on Lebo.
Before you can get Aiden route.
Starting it.
We need an aid car. We have a couple officers hit, and the suspect is down.
Suspect officer down.
CENTCOM Edward 453 for innovation. Both officers have been hit. We're alive and conscious. Suspect down.
Both officers hit. Conscious. Suspects down.
Officer has a gunshot wound to the left hip, rear entry. And another officer also has a right rib injury. Shot in the ribs and then a rear hip, left hip.
I just want to let you guys know Kent's doing okay. It looks like
Awesome.
just went in the side, it went in and out.
All right, keep us updated.
Yep, will do.
We're
Bye-bye.
thinking about you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
A months-long police investigation determined that Willie McCord fired 20 shots here before he was killed by officers' return fire. And those shots likely came from guns that McCord was ordered to surrender in court 1 month earlier. This weapons surrender order, filed in Kitsap County Superior Court 33 days before the shootout, required McCord to immediately turn over all his guns to police.
Kitsap 911, what are you reporting?
I am reporting a domestic violence now.
It was issued 2 days after a 911 call from this Bremerton home. McCord attacked his wife and responding police officers.
Are there any weapons involved?
He might have one.
That order was issued in Kitsap County Superior Court, where a previous King 5 investigation found that up to 80% of defendants ignore weapons surrender orders. Many of those are civil orders, not criminal, filed in domestic violence cases. That means no prosecutor is involved, and there's no one to enforce an order that as many as 80% of defendants defy.
When I communicated that number to Judge Olson, our presiding judge, she was also very, very concerned about the number.
Superior Court Administrator Frank Mayoko, who we interviewed earlier this year, started sending out these notices to the sheriff's office after our story. It's not a perfect system, but he has reported a handful of violators who openly defy judges' orders to turn over their guns. Can you tell me what happened there?
It was just a misunderstanding that hopefully we get taken care of. So,
Devin Smith of Port Orchard is charged with lying to a public servant and failure to surrender a weapon after he allegedly told police he had no guns when served with a surrender order in a domestic violence case. His girlfriend later reported that she'd found his guns, as these police evidence photos show, hidden under the bed in the home they used to share. When they tell you to turn over your guns, what's not clear about that?
I just have some stuff that I had to look over. And
Smith was caught not because the court reported him, rather his girlfriend contacted sheriff's deputies. That's something that many victims are too frightened to do for fear of a scenario like the McCord case.
Like, man, because we still I couldn't couldn't figure out what prompted Willie to just go off and shoot like that.
His best friend told detectives after the shooting that McCord was mild-mannered. But behind that exterior, McCord's increasing drinking and erratic behavior initially made his wife too fearful to tell police about his threats with guns.
And when you said that he might have a weapon on him, but he didn't use it, what would he have?
He has knives and stuff like that.
Yet 2 days later, she called police, admitting McCord had a stash of guns in spite of the Kitsap County surrender order. She said Willie threatened her with a .357 in previous violent incidents. That's the same caliber handgun he fired at Bremerton officers, according to their lieutenant, Aaron Elton.
I'm certain that when they pulled up on that car, that's not what they were guessing was going to happen.
Not sure the status of the officers.
I can only imagine that it was sheer terror. Anytime somebody has one gun and they're shooting at you, let alone two.
Both officers returned to duty and are working now, and prosecutors determined that the shooting death of Willie McCord was justified. Before that fateful night, McCord's escalating behavior brought him to the attention of police, but in many cases, the threats and abuse are kept quiet behind the scenes in abusive households, and that's why it's so important for authorities to follow up and enforce weapons surrender orders immediately. And you guys, I've said it here at this table many times during the course of this 2-year series that when there is a gun in the mix, a domestic violence victim is up to 5 times more likely to be murdered.
Wow. So that diligence on law enforcement is so key, right?
Yeah, there has to be a way for the courts to tell authorities, hey, we got to go get this guy. He's not following our order. There's just not good systems set up in most counties right now to do that.
All right, Chris, thanks for this ongoing investigation.
You bet.